Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today we're here with Autumn and Aladdin. Good morning.
Good morning, Trudy, and all Trudy's watchers and viewers. This is Aladdin, and I'm Autumn. And today I would like to talk to you about Arabians, but also Arabians in the discipline that I do, which is called endurance riding. It's another word for it is endurance racing, and another word for it is long distance riding. So what endurance riding is a competition over long distance, and you go to a camp. I go to Central Oregon, all over Washington and Oregon, but you go to a ride camp that's set up ahead of time. You camp for 2 or 3 nights with your horse and a bunch of other trailers and horses, 30, 40 different horse trailers and living quarters and people sleeping in tents, and you get to camp with your horse, and that's super fun. And then in the morning of the race, we do 50-mile endurance rides. So you can do a 25, which is limited distance, a 50, a 75, or 100. You have 6 hours to complete a 25 and 12 hours to complete a 50, 24 hours to complete 100 miles. I don't plan to ever do 100 miles because I don't want to ride after dark. But we have 12 hours to complete a 50. So we start about 7 in the morning, and they say trail is open, and all the horses that are competing on the 50 all leave at the same time. This is after you've already had a veterinary check the night before to make sure you do a trot out, make sure your horse is sound. She checks his dehydration, she checks his gut sounds, she or he, and they make sure that your horse is ready for the challenge of completing 50 miles in less than 12 hours. In order to have a horse ready to do that, it takes a lot of preparation, a lot of conditioning for me and for him, but mostly for him. He can't just do 50 miles. He has to be fit and in shape, cardiovascularly and muscular, his bones. Saddle fit is really important. The tack is actually really, really important. The things I wear is important, because if you're riding a horse for 50 miles, if you're not wearing comfortable, you can't really do it in jeans. Some people do, but it's gonna hurt, it's gonna rub. And so I wear comfortable tights. I wear half chaps, which help protect me from rubbing on the saddle, but also protect from limbs and branches that are going to because we're out in the middle of the mountains on trails. It's not, there's a lot of limbs and branches and mountains we're climbing and rivers we're crossing. And I wear these Ariat terrain boots, which are really comfortable for getting off and walking, because you do a little bit of that, of getting off and walking. So that's what I wear, tights, those, and always my helmet. I never get on a horse without it. I do not care if it's an endurance ride or I'm walking to that mailbox. Whichever horse I'm riding, the safest one in the world, I will not get on my horse without my helmet. So that's my stuff, but he needs to be comfortable for 50 miles. Obviously, saddle fit is the king of all problems that you're going to encounter with long distance horses, because a saddle that kind of fits is not going to fit after 50 miles unless it's perfect. So my saddle is made by the Arabian Saddle Company, and you can't really see it because it has a sheepskin over it, but the sheepskin's for me. The saddle fits him perfectly. These are cloud stirrups, Cloud 9 they're called. I can ride in them all day comfortably. He has a mohair girth, which is the only thing that he likes. Breast collar is all made from some material called beta biothane. It's not leather. This is washable in your dishwasher, and it's unbreakable, which has its pros or cons, because if your horse gets hung up, you kind of want it to break. This stuff's not going to break. It lasts forever. There's a local woman, endurance rider, her name is Diana, and she owns American Trail Gear. She's a wonderful woman, and I buy all my tack from her. You can see the little tags right on here somewhere that says American Trail Gear, but you can get it any colors you want. Endurance riders are famous for the bright teals and the bright pinks. I decided with my bays, I have mostly bay horses, to go with black because they look good in black, but I have a little pattern here on the top that matches his head stall, and so that's what we chose for tack, the beta biophane from American Trail Gear. And this is called a snap-on head stall, which is really fun because when I get to a vet check, because there's vet checks along my ride that we have to pass to complete our endurance ride, I want to take the bit out of his mouth so that he can pulse down and relax and eat his hay and drink his water without the bit in his mouth. So I just unsnap these, pull the bit out and the head stall off, and then these reins hook right to his rope halter, which is underneath. So anytime vet check or if something happens on the trail, I've got the halter and reins or a lead rope right there, and I can just take his head stall and bit off his mouth, and then I can just hook it right back up when I'm ready to ride, making sure I don't crisscross it. And he's also riding in a Mylar combination bit, which is his favorite. So yeah, that's called a snap-on or add-on head stall, which we really love. Rubber grippy reins for when it gets sweaty. And that's what we go in for 50 miles. Hop on him and show you a little, and I'll ride him, I'll trot him around and talk about the trot is the gait that is most conducive for endurance riding, and I'll tell you why. These are called rhythm beats. They're not really an endurance thing. They're just a thing I like for pretty, but also they make a nice soft little jingle that a lot of dressage riders use to work on cadence and timing. As he trots, horses are very rhythmical in their trot and their canter and their walk. So trotting is the gait that most horses complete an endurance ride at. Because if you were to walk the entire 50 miles, you would not complete in time. Impossible. You're not going to trot the entire time either because of safety reasons. I don't trot downhill. If there's a downhill, we're going to walk. If there's a river crossing, we're going to walk. If it's really rocky, we walk. We do use shoes and pads. We pad the front because 50 miles is a long time for a horse to go barefoot, even if the footing is good. So we trot almost the entire 50 miles we trot, with some walking in there for safety reasons. We also do some cantering just to mix up, make it a little more comfortable for me, because as you can imagine, trotting for 50 miles can get rather exhausting. So we'll do some cantering. He actually loves to canter. But trotting is the most efficient gait for the horse's breathing rhythm. And so most endurance riders trot almost the entire way. And then you will easily complete. He does when we do training rides, about a 8 mile per hour average trot is a good steady pace where we can complete a 50 with no problem. We usually complete in 9 to 10 hours, and we have 12 hours to complete. But then you have to pass the vet checks. Your horse has to pulse down to 60 beats per minute within 30 minutes. If they don't, you're disqualified, because it means your horse is having a metabolic something, and maybe they weren't conditioned well enough, or they're just having an issue. Endurance riding is all about the welfare of the horse and taking care of the horse. There is no cash prizes. There's no money to be won. They do that for a reason. It's to have people not get too competitive to win or get top 10. And so we get a t-shirt. I should have wore one of I have about 6 t-shirt prizes of rides that I've completed, and we get a t-shirt and a coffee mug that says the name of our ride. And so that's what we're not really competing for the prize. We're competing for the pride and the feeling of success and accomplishment when you cross that finish line, and you cross that finish line on a horse that's fit to continue. Mm-hmm. A horse that could go another 20 miles probably, because the veterinarian tells you still got a lot of horse under you. Mm-hmm. And that is an amazing feeling to get there, and you're exhausted. But I love it. It's the thing I love doing. And all those reasons aside, the main reason I love endurance riding is I get to spend 10 hours on the trail with this, my best buddy here. And him and I bond in a way that you wouldn't on an 1 or 2 hour trail ride. We're out there all day counting on each other, depending on each other through thick and thin, and you never know what's going to happen out there. But it's just me and him. We hardly ever see other riders. We'll see riders once in a while, but it's just the two of us, and we get to travel 50 miles on beautifully marked trails where you can't really get lost, although that does happen, and in the middle of places that I would never get to ride otherwise. And we absolutely love it. He loves it too. So I'll just do a little trotting, cantering demonstration, and then we will sign off. Walk on. You can see what Aladdin's little endurance trot looks like. He's a little high-headed, so we're working on collecting. Trot, 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 trot. So I post the trot is how I do it for 50 miles. Is I post. I also do something called 2-point. 2-point is hovering up like this. You're just hovering like a few inches above the saddle and leaning forward just a little bit to find that sweet spot of balance. But 2-point is a way that you can ride the trot for a long distance. Posting is my favorite way to ride the trot. All right, until next time, YouTube viewers, thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
trails.
Thank you, Autumn. Thanks, Aladdin.